Okay, shed uncuffed, man. So I was sitting here for quite a while trying to debate. Do I come in with my show with this fantastic song? It's an original creation by Mr. Justin Yamas, who's playing a role in our film, a very, very important role. He's slated to play Dexter Miles, who pretty much is the antagonist to our main character, Mr. Cody Jacobs. So I didn't know this at the time when I cast Justin, but this dude could sing. He's getting a lot of exposure. He's from the Bay Area, but he has going back and forth out of Nashville, working on some stuff. And you know what, people? This dude is about to blow up. So I asked Justin if he could do a theme song for us for Iowa's Finest, and you know what? He jumped on it and he just killed it. Hit it on all cylinders, and that's what you just guys get done hearing was a song that he wrote and recorded called Bullet and Gun. Justin did another song for us, but I can't go into specifics because I will definitely spoil the surprise. But when the film comes out, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. For those who keeping count, you're just, wait a minute, 14? What happened to 13? Awesome story. My oldest baby did an interview with me, podcast interview, a couple weeks back, and that's episode 13. So I'm going to hold off releasing it for now because there's still more we want to be able to share and talk about, have her kind of bring out to the forum, to the crowds and all that stuff. She's competing in the Stanford Relays, which is highly prestigious relays out here. It's a mixture of college, big time colleges competing, and then the second day the high schools are competing too. In order to be able to qualify for those relays, you have to be running some really, really good times. So Mercedes qualified for 4 races, and so she's going to be out there doing her thing, and we're going to be in the stands rooting her on. I hope nothing but the best for her, of course. But those are the type of things that we touched on a little bit in our podcast, some other little things here and there, and I wanted her to get a chance to be able to kind of elaborate on some of the topics we talked about. So episode 13 is going to be reserved for Mercedes, and it's going to be titled Her First Solo Voyage, and I'm sure you guys can figure out what that means. She's about to turn 18. She's about to be graduating here in about 2-3 months, and then she's going to be off on her own, heading off to college for her first solo voyage. So bittersweet occasions going on around here, but I think she's going to be just fine. I wish and I hope and I know actually that the gods are going to be watching over her the same way that they've been watching over me as I've grown up in the world too. So, a lot of people may or may not believe in all that, but I do. I mean, there's something out there watching over us. Some people declare it as in different forms, all that. I'm not here to say which side is better or anything like that, but I truly believe that there's a force out there that we can't quite see that guides us along. And it's just up to us whether or not we, receive the hints or kind of we're paying attention to kind of go where we're being guided. More times than not, there's something better on the other side of where they're trying to lead you. It's just simple stuff like, for if you look around and you have an important meeting that you have to fly to down in LA, and if you don't get there, you're not going to get the job or whatever like that. I mean, there's been several times like that where that's the type of situation or something similar, and then you're running late, and then you just know that there's no chance you're gonna be able to get that flight. It's just not going to work, and you're all devastated and just deflated, and then you get to the airport and you find out that the flight's delayed on its own, and you're just like, holy crap, okay, all right, and then so you get on that plane. Why did that happen? Some people will just kind of pass it off as coincidences, but I've always believed it ever since a youngster. Call it silly, but everybody knows I'm a movie guy, and there's growing up, there's always been movies that stand out to me, symbolic. So if everybody remembers the movie Clash of the Titans, I'm talking about the first one. back in 70s, whatever it was made. I was a little boy when it first came out, and so the special effects on this one is really bad. You can it's one of those where you can see the strings that are holding up whatever the little bird thing that's flying around and stuff, and it's but they did the best they could back in those days. And actually for that time, it was state of the art type special effects that really brought something new to the movie world, because it not only was it a fantastic story, great acting, great actors, and all that. It was a really, really good love story mixed in with the war scenes, and oh my goodness, they had Medusa in there. Medusa to me is always going to be one of my favorite villains, I guess, because she has her own like little story. So they did the best they could. But Clash of the Titans, though, the first one it always will stand out to me, because one of the things that they did, Sir Laurence Olivier, when he was like the big, movie star back in the days and all that stuff. I mean, he played Zeus in this film, and the world that they lived in, the gods that they lived in, was so well, I guess, staged that it really looked real. Even though that they were just seemingly, to me, just surrounded by clouds, it really was believable. To this day, it still stays in my head. Even when I watch it now, I still believe that they are real. They did that good of a job and made that lasting of an impression on me that to me, that movie aged very, very well. And so one thing that stands out to me is that when Perseus has to go on the quest to save his, what would you call it at that time, fiance, his future wife or whatever, he's presented with all these challenges and obstacles only because his antagonist, Calibus or whatever is his name, and his mom is doing everything he can to derail Perseus's quest. So if you guys remember this, there's parts where Perseus would fall to the ground completely exhausted. And then Zeus, who controls everything, the lead god, when everybody walks off, he has this funny, awesome little smirk on his face. And he make sure they're around the corner because he's the boss. But, he can also get overruled because there's like 6 of those and just him. And if, he's just very smart too. And then he just says, okay, all right, the coast is clear. And he obviously wants Perseus, because that's his son, to prevail. So he waits. And then if everybody remembers the part, apparently the world below is all like a, what would you call it? Like they're like models and stuff like that, clay people. And each clay figure represents the people on Earth. And obviously you got to have open mind when you think about all this stuff. But Zeus picks up Perseus's little doll thing, and he stands it up straight. So then the movie cuts back in with Perseus now in real life. In the movie, he's back full strength, and he's back on his quest with Medusa's head. I'm sorry, people, if I'm ruining the movie if you haven't seen it yet. But shame on you if you have not seen this movie. If you haven't seen the 70 version, holy crap, you definitely should see the new version. It's not as good, but there's certain scenes and sequences in it that are just kind of just blows that version away because of the high tech special effects that are in the mix now, like the scene with Medusa on this one and the new one. I can watch that all day. I look at that sequence all the time because I kind of take notes from it. Wow, they did such a great job with that. Everybody did. But in the end, the objective of it all is that to put off this impression that the gods are real. So maybe that's what happened with me, and that kind of has stood with me for a while. That there are forces out there that you can't really see, but they're guiding you along. On another note, if you remember Brave, the one where the real hard-headed, I guess in a way, but strong-willed daughter, I believe Mario, she doesn't want to be forced into marriage and all these different things. And so she breaks off from tradition. She's princess. And so she breaks off from tradition and kind of wants to do her own and stuff. So she goes off on her own like little journey. But if you watch the beginning of that film, even though, come on now, it's kind of cartoon form or whatever, it's animation, even if it was in real life film version, one part that stays with you is at the beginning when she's a little girl and she's kind of like playing around in the open field by herself. herself, and she's picking flowers and just kind of like a just happy like little kid who's just off in just her own world and just loving life. But she's walking towards this area where this, I can't remember the dude's name, but it's the giant bear. He's the one who terrorizes everybody in the end. She's walking straight towards that bear, and so the wisps appear and just kind of like they're like a flash, a flicker of light, just boom right in front of her. And then now all of a sudden she forgets all about the flowers, and then now she's paying attention to these flickers of lights, and then now they're guiding her away from where the bear is. Those are the type of things where just kind of like, I mean, someone recognized that, and they put it in their film, and those are the type of things that stand out to a lot of people. Makes me think about this one time when I was younger, right? So in junior high school, maybe 10th grade, I guess, whatever. But so there was a guy who I went to junior high school with, and maybe the first couple years or the first year of high school with, and dude was freaking stud. I'll give you his name. His name's Chris Stovall. Just a bad dude, just a really good dude, funny, and then just kind of like this awesome smile. And then when he kind of, hit his stride or grew up, hit puberty or however you want to say it. I mean, he just became a man, got all the muscles and everything, and just, he was a smooth cat all around the board. And then, so just him and I were close friends. And then, fortunately, next year in high school, he ended up moving. And then, so I don't know if he moved, but they changed the borders of the city. So he now had to end up going to a different school. So he ended up go to North, I was at West, and I can tell you something, I don't know if it's just a Davenport thing, but and maybe it's not that way so much anymore, but back when I was growing up, man, the rivalries were fierce. North didn't like West, West didn't like Central, Central hated North and West, then Assumption was mixed in there, who they did the best they could, against the bigger schools. Assumption's a private school, but the other schools are just like, they got their own personalities. They're areas of the city. You go over here this way, if you're not from Central or whatever, you better have a reason for being there. I mean, it's obviously not that as scary, but it was more fun than anything. Like the rivalries for real, and especially in the sports world, people try to take each other out. Stories like when just you would always go after each other, but at the end of the day, there was a lot of mutual respect as well. But while you were competing, it was a death fight and all that stuff. So when Chris went to North, him and I kind of became like rivals. It was weird. We weren't hating on each other. It was just kind of like he went to North now. He's a Wildcat. I'm a Falcon. And just, maybe the natural order of the wild is like, Falcons get chased by Wildcats and vice versa. They just battle each other. I don't know. Maybe that's what it was. It's friendly rivalry more than anything. But I remember, I'm not going to say her name, but Chris swiped my girlfriend. That's just the way it works too. Swiped my girlfriend, and I was left high and dry. She's like all in love with this Chris guy, and and good for him. That's just the way in love and war. I guess that's just the way it works. So, but if I go back to the gods, so I think that the gods were kind of watching what happened one day, because the girl he swiped, very cynical in a way that she would always let me know how much better of a boyfriend Chris was, and Chris would eat it up because that's just how guys are and stuff. So, but it would never ever obviously turn crazy between Chris and I. It was just one of those things where, hey, I just accepted the fact that I lost. There's nothing I can do about that one. But it still kind of stung a little bit, so I hadn't hit my stride yet. I still had like little dinky muscles and stuff, no mustache, and was and then that was back in the days when I had this nasty sore because I was doing something stupid one day, and I burned the skin in the middle of my eyes, like a small like nickel size skin got burned, and it wasn't just like a regular like with a flame burn. It was like chemical burn, and so this this sore was so on a whole other level. I mean, it was all pussy all the time. It got infected, and then it would not heal no matter what I did. There was nothing I could do to calm this thing down. It was all angry every time I woke up. The thing was like red and bleeding and just nasty and oozing out pus and stuff. And no one around me knew what was going on. And like it was just everywhere I went, I get these looks like, what is wrong with your face and stuff. So, I was in a bad shape. I was in bad shape, Here Chris is just like a bohunk, just everybody's just loving him, girls loving him. And here I am with this cyclops thing in the middle of my face and just like had its own like little personality. And it was just kind of like, it stood out, and it was just like, there was nothing I could do. I tried to wear glasses and cover it up, and there was no hiding from it and stuff. So obviously something like that could kind of damage your confidence and stuff. So I was behind the curve when it came to, I just wasn't just cool, and so I was already not well off when it comes, kind of like, okay, well, Chris stole my girl. What do I do about it? Well, let me start calling her up and say, hey, what are you doing? Try to win her back. It was just, I didn't know how to do that off. So, one day the girl calls me, and again, like I said, to rub it in how much better, how much more fun she's having with Chris and all these different things, calls me. She's like, hey, guess where we're at? And I'm just like, where? Well, we were playing basketball and up at the park, and I was with Chris, and Chris was making all these baskets, and he was doing all these different things, and he was just doing such a great job. He was playing, pick up basketball, and I'm rooting him on. I'm just like, okay, why did you call? He was just, no, it's just a funny story, because I can't remember the other girl's name. She's just like, let's call her Janet. I don't know. I just made that name up. No one can accuse me of anything, because I just made up the name Janet, everybody. All right, so Janet comes up, and she's just like, and so what they would always do is like, Janet always would have money, and then so she was always wanting to try to have friends. So Janet said, hey, I'll take you guys out to, I got $20. I take you guys to 7-Eleven, get you guys some whatever you want. And they're just like, okay, let's go. So Chris, his girlfriend, and then Janet all say, okay, so they walk across the street apparently. And this is her telling me this story. They walk from the basketball courts, cross the street, go through the field, go down the hills, go down the the other little dead end, and go to where 7-Eleven is on it's about two or so blocks away from the park. So, and then she's just like, and then we get there, and then she, Janet finds out that she lost the money. So she's just like, so we're out here looking for this $20 bills that this stupid girl lost. And that's what she was saying. I wasn't calling her stupid, but that's what she was saying. It was like, can you believe this? And it was like, and I'm just like, yeah, okay. All right. Well, thanks for filling me in. And she's just like, all right, you take care. And then we hang up. So I'm sitting there just like, man, that sucks. I'm like, I'm like the laughing stock of my crew or group that I hang out with and all that stuff, especially because I got this thing that lives in front of my nose. And it just kind of like, that was always a rumor. I was like, how did he burn his face? I mean, and no one really knew. They came up with all these different things. Like I was putting cigarettes out in the middle of my face. It was just all kinds of crazy things. The real story is worse than that, but anyway, so I'm sitting at the house all demoralized and stuff like that. Because I kind of still like the girl, So I'm about ready to throw in the towel again. And then something told me, nope, you're not going to be sitting in the room sulking. Get your butt up, get in the car, and go up there. And I'm just like, okay. And then I just followed the lead of whoever's telling me to do whatever. And I'm just like, okay, I get up. There's no real reason for me to do this anyway, but just because something my gut said to get up, get in the car and go. So I get up and I go out there. I live about, down the road of just a little bit from this particular park. And so it's about a 5-minute drive, if that, so I know where the park is because I would play out there too. So I kind of drive up the main road, get towards the park, get closer to the park. And I have no clue what path they took to walk from the basketball courts to the 7-Eleven. So I just found my own little place and parked. I said, okay, now what? And then something said, okay, get out. And, and I drove by Chris and the two girls as they were looking around and just kind of like, and we're talking about like grass fields, like thick grass and stuff. I mean, Iowa, a lot of the, lands are kind of spread out and all that stuff. You'll have a couple stores here, bing, bing, and then go a little bit of windy road or whatever. And then all of a sudden there's a school and then just a neighborhood right here. Very, very nice setup for a city. I really do like the layout. It's widespread and there's so much land there in Davenport where they can just keep developing. And every time I go back home now, I'm seeing it's like, my goodness, this city is getting big. All this area right here was just pastures of grass and just for how far you can see. Now you have a big old whole new neighborhood, the east section of sub-district of whatever, and now that's whatever. But at that time, it was mostly underdeveloped except for the 7-Eleven and a couple different stores. So there's trails here and there that you can cut through and all that stuff. And just kind of like, I had no clue where they went. When I drive by them, they give me a look and they all kind of look like frustrated, like this sucks and stuff like that. And you can just see them yelling or hear them yelling at Janet, and she's like trying to plead her case. Oh, I'm sorry, just keep looking. So anyway, so I park and I get out and I start walking and looking around myself. And then I go from one side of, near 7-Eleven. And then I kind of backtrack. I'm just like, okay, they've already kind of looked at this area. I see the area where they're looking now. So let me just start over here. I don't even want to be looking at them anyway. So I start on the other side of the hill where they were, or the field where they were and all that stuff. And like I said, it's like super grassy. So I'm looking, good 5-10 minutes or so goes by. No big deal. I'm still bummed out. I'm like, man, I can't believe, seeing that site was just really rough, but, let it go, Kenny, let it go. So I'm keeping looking. I'm still just kind of, I was one of those guys where playing out in the woods was our thing anyway. So that was kind of fun for me, was walking around in this wooded area or grassy area and all that stuff. It was just kind of cool for me anyway. And so I stumble across this tire, it's a nice looking tire. What made me think like to pick this tire up, I have no clue. It was just like a regular old tire, abandoned, and it was like in the middle of this field. And it was just, but it looked clean and looked new, kind of newish and stuff. And it's like somebody threw away a tire. Wow, okay. I mean, I have no clue what I'm going to do with this, but I'm not going to just leave this tire out here. I'm just I could use it for something. I don't know. I mean, I would do stupid stuff like that all the time. like, I don't know. I mean, we'd be down at the creek and, I remember there's like this big old wooden spool thing, just one of those large size ones in the middle of the creek. And I swam out there and grabbed it and, pushed it all the way up the shoreline and stuff. And then we're in the woods area. So I had to get it all through the trees and stuff, and I rode it all the way home. It was like 5 miles maybe, rolling it home, and maybe 2 or whatever. It wasn't that much, but it was a good distance. And I get all the way home, and I said, "Dad, look what I found." He's like, "Yeah, okay. Why? Did you get it?" And I just look at him like, you know what? I don't have the slightest idea. So, and it just stood out in the backyard, just doing nothing really for the rest of that time. But those were just the things that just stood out to a little kid. Grab the tire. So I pick up the tire and I start to carry it, but this thing's so heavy and I'm trying to get it back to the car, which is like a whole field away now. And I'm just like, well, at least I can get this out of it. So I'm carrying this tire all through these weeds and stuff like that. And it's starting to get too heavy. So I'm just like, well, I don't want to just leave it. I've already gone this far with it. I'm going to keep it. So I start rolling it now. So now I'm rolling it through some of the field, and then there's like some trails mixed in here and there. Then I follow the trail as much as I could, and then it'd cut off, and then you'd have to carry it again, and then or you shift over and you cut through this kind of thinner part of the grassy field and stuff. And then I don't care, man. I've committed this much of my energy and time to this tire. I'm getting it to the house, so I'm wheeling it and pushing it and rolling it, right? So, and then all of a sudden it started, there was like a slope, like a rocky slope. And then we start kind of, the tire, I'm sorry, starts getting a little bit too fast. And now I'm trying to run and keep up with it. And it's hitting rocks and bumping all over the place. I'm trying to keep it under control. It hits this big old bank, whatever. And then it veers to the left and I'm trying to catch it. And it's really way out of control now. And it goes boom, 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 all over the place. And I'm running after this thing because I'm like so focused now on this freaking tire, and I'm just not caring that I'm getting torn up by all the jagged edge stuff and everything out there in the weeded area. Finally, after this long journey, 200-300 yards of just rolling out of control, goes boom, hits another like a big old rock, flips over, end over end, boom, 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 keeps rolling. And then finally, I'm glad it did that because I was literally running out of breath. And I couldn't keep up with it. It was going that fast. And finally, it came to a rest over here on the other side of the field over there. So I'm just like, whew, caught my breath. I get up and I go over there and everything. I'm just like, you're coming with me no matter what you think. I'm talking to the tire, I guess. And so I go and I pick it up and I look. It's right on top of the $20 bill. Look, I'm a story writer, okay? Everybody knows that, but I am not making this thing up. There's no way in the world I could come up with that type of a story. That tire was sitting on top of the $20 bill that was lost by these three knuckleheads, and I couldn't even believe it. I reached down and I'm like, oh my goodness. And at that time, that was like, 88. Oh, anyway, 88, one of those years. It was way back there and stuff. So $20 is a lot of money back in those days and stuff like that. So it was like I was holding a $300 bill, man. So I was like, oh, wow. And then I grab it and I'm all excited. I'm jumping for joy. Now the tire doesn't weigh anything really. I'm like, I'm holding it with like one arm, man, running to the car. For some reason, it was just all of a sudden, I couldn't feel anything other than just like an unbelievable amount of happiness and stuff. So I get back to the car and I drive by Chris and the two girls and I honk, hey, you guys looking for this? And they say, what? And they start chasing me and I'm just like, woo. I kind of slowed up a little bit so they get a little bit close and they're screaming. Chris is mad, pumping his arms, and everybody else is all mad. That's mine. Boom, gone. Got back to the house and I was just like, all I could think of was that if you use the idea that the gods are watching over us, the gods of broken heart, goddess or god, whichever one, was watching over me that day and said, you know what, I'm going to root for the underdog in this one. This dude deserves a break. He already has this thing on his in between his eyes that just won't heal. And, and they just said, let's give him a break today. And so they did. And that's the only explanation that I can think of that got me to where that $20 was. And it was a great, great day. Obviously, the girl called me and wanted to make up and was like, hey, you know what? Chris is such a jerk. He was yelling and, what are you doing? And I'm just like, click. Woo. K-shed. Anyway, so I don't know. I'm a true believer in that, that there's something out there. If you're paying attention, it's calling to you and it's trying to, I don't know, I call them signs from the gods or gifts from the gods, and they're trying to help you through whatever ordeal. Life is designed to challenge everybody, and it's all up to them to, step up to the challenge and try to prevail it. My dad would always say, the world is all waiting for everybody there with its arms outstretched. And on each side of the can is a fish ready to knock the crap out of you. So, that's just another challenge, especially if someone that young, going through high school, going through junior high or whatever, everybody's all dealing with all kinds of issues and stuff like that. It's on top of that, you're trying to pass your classes and you're trying to fit in and all that stuff. So I know that's what my girls are going through right now. And, I'm positive that the gods are going to be there to watch over them as well, so which leads me to the name of this podcast. Kshed Uncuffed episode number 14 is called The Coolest Football Ever. Unless I decide to change the name to something else. But that's what we're going to go with now. And I am looking at this incredible football. It's old, a little bit drubbed up. It's a Spalding football, and it has the brown leather, half and half. One panel of it is brown leather, and it has American Football League, Pete Rozelle as the commissioner engraved on it. Now, by knowing that and looking at that, that tells you right there that this is an old football. Pete Rozelle was like one of the first commissioners way back in the days, and then it says American Football League, and so it's obviously the American Football Conference, the AFC now, but this was like back in the days when it was the AFL. And as I'm looking at this ball, it's from 1968, and it has many different signatures on it. And when I look around on it, you would not believe the names on this football. There is Kenny Stabler, Ben Davison, Gene Upshaw, Willie Brown, just to name a few. So you were wondering how I know this is from back in 68 is because what I had to do was, and I'll tell you how I got in possession of this amazing football, the coolest football in the world afterwards, but there's faded signatures on it too. And what I had to do was, and some that I can't read, so what I ended up having to do was the ones I could read, I put on a list, right? And then I go to another signature I can read. Some, like I said, are kind of faded out. And then there's one guy who I got to, Mr. John Roderick, former wide receiver for the Oakland Raiders. And he played only 1 year for the Raiders, and it was in 1968. So using my technically sound brain, which anybody could have figured that one out, means pull up the 1968 roster of the Oakland Raiders and then kind of go backwards. So that's what I did. And I was able to look at this ball, all the other signatures, and it's confirmed. This ball was autographed from the Raider team back in, 68. That was the year with that roster of guys. And I'm here with this ball with here. I'm about to read you the names on this ball. Bob Cruzy, Jim Harvey, John Roderick, Ben Davidson, Gene Upshaw, Howie Williams, Dave Kalkurik, George Blanda, Ken Stabler, Harry Shush. I'm saying that wrong. I apologize to his family if him and his family if I said that wrong. Preston Riddlehuber, Larry Todd, Jim Otto, Bill Miller, Cotton Davidson, Roger Haberg, Dave Morrison, Jerry Hopkins, Warren Powers, Charlie Smith, Mike Eicheld, Willie Brown, and Roger Bird. There's obviously the one with Willie Brown doesn't have Hall of Fame on top of it at that time because it was in 68 and how he was still playing. If you look at a Willie Brown ball or signature now, he has the trademark Hall of Fame over top, which just completes one of the best all-around football players of signature of all time. He was a unstoppable force anyway, but just a fantastic person with a amazing personality, very warm, and then his signature was just as amazing. I had several chances to do promotions with him, and what he brought to the team was something amazing. So I'm holding a ball now with some of the best football players of all time on one of the best teams ever created, and that's how I was able to figure out where this ball came from. I don't know exactly how where the football players were and the team were when they obviously autographed this ball. So that's where my imagination has to kick in. And so as I'm looking at this ball, it brings me to those days when back in 68, when that team was known as one of the fiercest teams ever put together. So let me read you what the breakdown of the 1968 Oakland Raiders season was. The 1968 Oakland Raiders season was the team's ninth season in both Oakland and the American Football League. It saw the team try to improve upon its 13-1 record from 1967. They ultimately finished one game short of matching that year's result. Their 12-2 finish still ensured that they would lead the league in wins for a second consecutive year. Led by third-year head coach John Roch, they tied with Kansas City for the division title, which was settled by an unscheduled tiebreaker playoff, won 41-6 by the Raiders. At that time, the owner was F. Wayne Valley, the general manager Al Davis, head coach John Roch. Their home field was the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum. Their record was 12-2, first place in the AFL. Listen to that, the AFL Western. They won divisional playoff versus the Chiefs, and then they lost the AFL championship against the Jets. So, 1968, the season featured a growing rivalry between the Raiders and the New York Jets, led by fourth-year superstar quarterback Joe Namath. The teams met twice in 1968. The first was on November 17th in Oakland, which saw the Raiders complete a stunning fourth-quarter comeback over the Jets, scoring 2 touchdowns in 9 seconds. Known today as the Heidi game, it remains one of the most famous in NFL history. They paired up 6 weeks later in the AFL, I'm sorry, I keep saying AFC, the AFL championship game in New York, where Namath's Jets emerged victorious in a 27-23 upset on December 29. 2 weeks later, the Jets upset the Baltimore Colts in Super Bowl III. That was the guarantee game, guys. So much history is booming out of this ball right now. The 1968 season is also notable for a few changes to the team, included the additions of George Atkinson, Art Shell, and Ken Stabler. All three won a championship with the Raiders 8 years later in Super Bowl XI. Additionally, Shell in 1989 and Stabler in 2016 were both inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So, I have the world's coolest football in my possession. Again, you have to see it to believe it. It literally looks like something that should be in a museum or, more aptly put, the Football Hall of Fame in Canton, just because of it still smells as if it was just fresh off assembly line back in those days and stuff. And it looks just the same like it came from those days. And Pete Rozelle, obviously everybody knows the history between Pete Rozelle and Mr. Al Davis. So there's so much to learn about this football, how it ended up where I came in contact with it. But it's safe now, and it's beyond inspiring for me when I hold it and I look at it. It brings me back to if I played in those days and stuff with that team. Wow, because those are the real days. I know that the Raiders are on the path to return to greatness, but in the meantime they have a fantastic history to hold on to and remember. And this football to me is something that is very, very powerful. So one day when I was playing, or actually I was done playing, but I was working as a police officer, and I can't remember how many years on I was, but it was well into my year 15ish, probably, around that time frame. So if people don't know, San Leandro has kind of an issue when it comes to homelessness and some of the home transit camps that are out there. They do a lot of different programs to help combat that and help people get off the streets and stuff. So I applaud them to that. One of the hardest working police officers over there at San Leandro is their homeless liaison, Officer Warren de Guzman, who has really, really kind of revolutionized that position in a way that these people respect him, and once they're done and ready to officially be done on the streets, they know that they can go to Warren and he will pave the way for them to be able to get connected with the programs and the resources that are out there that they're surrounded by that could help them finance a home or get, put them in a place where they don't have to pay anything, and just, it's designed to help them get established again and on their feet. So, I applaud that officer and all the other officers who do what they can to try to help the homeless. So, but this particular time, I'm working, and then we get a call, what they call a civil standby. So anytime you go to a house or whatever where there's been an argument or two people are disagreeing and family disputes and all that stuff, and then one of the family members needs to go pick up their stuff, something like that, where it could could go sideways very quickly. They'll call the police, and the police will come by, always two, and then stand by while that person is moving their stuff or gathering their things and stuff. Or if there's other things that need to go down, like sometimes people get served with paperwork and all that stuff, and then the whoever's serving the paperwork, they gotta feel safe, so they call us to come by with them. And it's just that's one of the services that the police officers provide, so why not utilize it? So in this particular case, one of the businesses where they were like a laundromat, I believe there was a building, and then the building owner owned all the buildings kind of on that in that little plaza area, and one particular was a laundromat, and the property owner did everything they could to kind of reach out a helping hand to this particular homeless man. I can't remember his name, but he was very famous for being kind of like a belligerent and very hot-headed San Leandro citizen. Just kind of like he didn't want to be included in what rules and all that stuff. I don't want to say liked being homeless, but maybe he did. That was his lifestyle that he embraced, and that particular area behind the laundromat in this particular man's property, he just kind of like took it over. And it started off small at first, and so and then there's trees back there, so it was kind of hidden from the public. So it kind of worked best. It kind of worked for both sides. And a lot of times, the homeless people or transient people, they keep, sometimes there's like verbal agreements that were, hey, I'll keep an eye on your property. If someone comes around trying to maybe kind of sneak a little bit too close to your front doors, I'll yell at them and scare them away type stuff, if you're okay with me staying out here. So it kind of works both ways and stuff. And if those type of unions get squared away, then great. The peace is kept, and then people's property is looked after, and then the transients have a home. So, it's a win-win, really. This particular guy, like I said, he has history of just not being the friendliest person in the world. After a while, he starts overstaying his welcome, I guess. So in this particular case, his homeless encampment began to grow and grow, and then there was just more things all over the place, scattered about, and he would just keep, accumulating all these different things. And then if some people would walk by, he wasn't the friendliest person in the world. So, now he's scaring customers who are coming there to try to, get their laundry done and all that stuff. So it became more of a burden and a headache, and the gentleman was losing, and his other, managers of the businesses there at the property, they were losing business. So I think they gave him an ultimatum to kind of start cleaning things up or tearing things down and not making things as messy as what he was doing. And then I think he was supposed to kind of agree to the terms, and he didn't. Then they cut down the trees, and then as kind of his last warning, hey, we're cutting down the trees out here, so now you're really kind of visible to everybody. Please tear down your homeless encampment so it's not as unsightly as it is. Just kind of downsize with everything. And just like I said, it's like a junkyard. It really literally was a junkyard. So after the time frame that they gave him passed, and they were really done with him, and they served him with papers that he needed to leave off their property. So that's why we were called there. We're sitting there, me and the other officer, we get there, we see, oh man, that's such and such again. And there was mixtures of everything: discarded bikes, wood structures, and tent stuff, and thrown away items, and metal, everything, wheels, and you name it was out there. And a lot of it was kind of like built to fortify his homeless encampment, but overall it just looked like a mess, but it was massive. So we're there for a good 5-10 minutes and stuff, and but we're just hanging out. And then rolls up on his bike, and he's yelling, God dang it. And then they're trying to plead with him, hey, we gave you every chance. And he put up the biggest fight he could verbally, but there was just literally nothing he could do. So he quickly caught the hint. Thankfully, there was no drama or anything like that, but you could just tell he was not happy. He's throwing stuff around, and he's mad, I guess. So, but as long as he wasn't doing anything to harm anybody, yeah, it's all good. So as he's doing that, he's on one side of the pile, all that stuff, trying to go through everything he's looking for. He starts over here. I mean, going through everything that he will need or that he'd want to take. So he'll put stuff in a cart, and then he'll take it wherever his new place was, and then he'd come back and stuff. So on the part that he looked at and kind of filtered through everything on this part of the junk pile and was done with everything, he had grabbed everything he needed and then took took away, I'm kind of standing there and all that stuff, and I'm kind of still just trying to pass the time. And then I look again, and I'm just like, underneath something is this brown leather looking thing. I didn't know exactly what it was, but no more circumstances, I would have just kind of like, oh, okay, there's just more junk over there. But there was something about this particular shape or this object that just caught my eye, and I'm nowhere near it, but something about it just I couldn't take my eyes off. So my cover officer was on the other side of the encampment. I was over here more closer to where the laundromat was, so I was able to kind of maybe stay in the shade or whatever. So by rights, I should have just stayed where I was, because I was I wasn't in the middle of the sun or anything like that, and I should have just left whatever that was that I was looking at alone. But something told me to go over there, so I go here I am walking through some dude's homeless encampment, and now it's officially not his because he's given it up and all this stuff is going to be thrown away, but it's still a whole bunch of junk. I mean, if you trip and fall, you're like going to be like head first in someone's like throwaway, discarded, anything could be underneath those things. And I'm not trying to be too critical, but these homeless encampments aren't clean, and they're just, anything could be underneath there. I mean, we're talking vermin and all that stuff and everything. So, but I was, for whatever reason, drawn to this object. So I go over there and I look and I say, oh yeah, that is a football. And I look, one panel of it is brown leather. The other three panels are white. So I'm looking and, I was just, okay, all right, no big deal. I wiped, it was kind of obviously covered in some type of like rainwater or whatever, because it was kind of tucked down in there in the muddy, grassy area underneath all this stuff, all this muck and all that, everything. So I just kind of like used something to wipe all that stuff off. And I said, hey, whatever the officer's name, I'm not going to say, but I just say, hey, catch. So I toss a 23, 30-yard pass or whatever. It wasn't that far, but, just to kind of show off my arm, whoosh. And, he catches it, and then all of a sudden, now we're having fun, because we were sitting there doing nothing, and now we're having fun. We both are big football fans, and anyway, and so we're just like tossing the ball back and forth and everything. Each one's trying to like throw the perfect spiral and all that stuff. And, but I don't really notice too much about this ball other than just it's just a football and it's something to kind of entertain ourselves. So he's kind of getting wrapped up and everything. Our day is almost done here and all that stuff. So I was getting ready we were both kind of done playing football, and I was getting ready to toss this thing back out into the pile, and I look, and the name Kenny Stabler catches my eye, and I'm just like, Kenny Stabler? Is that Kenny Stabler's name? And I look, and I'm just like, oh my God, that is. And then on the side of it, next to it is Ben Davison. Then I see Gene Upshaw. I'm looking at this thing. This can't be real. This cannot be real. And as I look, and I'm seeing all these other names that are just like how I would sign a football, anybody who knows that, autographing football, you just know what it looks like, and it's authentic. This is an authentic football signed by these guys who I already know are Raiders. The name Kenny Stabler obviously stands out no matter what. Some aren't as famous and stuff, but Gene Upshaw, all those names, and then Jim Otto, all those guys and everything. So, and then you just look at the pure design on the front, and you're just like, this is an authentic football from back in the days when the Oakland Raiders were in Oakland at the Coliseum. This is from an event or a promotional event where these guys were there and they all signed this ball. And I'm just like on cloud nine. I'm just like, the heck is this? So I didn't know what to do. I'm just like, I can't just keep it, but I can't throw it back into that pile either. And so I said, hey, whatever his name is this something you want? He's like, leave me alone. No, I don't want that. Leave me alone. And I'm just like, you sure? And he just kind of flipped me off or whatever. And I was like, okay. And then that to me was the green light to rescue this ball from sheer, destruction, pretty much. And to this day, I'm almost shocked. And I feel bad for him because he did not know the value of this football that I now have in my hands. He just didn't. If he would have taken a moment to kind of look at it and kind of look at the name and all that stuff on there, it's amazing. But I was in the right place at the right time. So why did I tell this story? Because there was no excuse for me to be where I was anyway, other than to just stand by and just kind of stay put and kind of watch over everything and all that stuff. I was drawn to this football and I could not take my eyes off of it. And if it would have been the other way around, like the other officer, I know that officer, there's no way in the world he would have walked into that pile to check out anything short of an all-out fight with the dude. He was staying where he was and he wasn't dealing with all that throwaway stuff, that's the smart way anyway. But for me, I happened to be the right person at the right time who was right there, who knew, number one, that's a football. Number two, this is a football that was signed by Kenny Stabler, the great snake for the Oakland Raiders back in the days. And if I look out and it's signed by his teammates. So the only thing that I can think of is that this football was called to me by Mr. Al Davis himself, because this is a ball that's directly connected to him. I would not be surprised if I look at this thing, because like I said, there's some areas over here that might bear his name. I know a lot of the times when people would ask Al Davis for his signature, he would say, no, just I'm not the one that you need. You need those football players, my players' signatures and stuff like that. That's just the type of person he was, But he's embodied in this football himself because of spirit. And I really think that he figured out a way to signal to me to look over there and save this football that's so connected to his team. This football, there's no way in the world should have suffered some type of fate like that. I'm mad that it was left in on the ground for that period of time, where a lot of the signatures, some of the signatures are faded so you can hardly see them. But he knew that the only chance of it being rescued and saved was through me. And like those wisps, he figured out a way to get me to look that way and drew me to this football. And I'm going to hold on to it until it's reunited to where it came from. It's going to be protected. And I would love to be able to figure out where this football was signed and all that stuff. I'm just connected to the history of the Oakland Raiders. And this is so symbolic of my connection to the team. And I know without a doubt that it actually came from Mr. Davis. Mr. Davis was wanting to send a message that he's still watching over me. He's still there. He will always be one of the most influential people I've ever met in my life. He gave me the opportunity to play in the NFL when two other teams refused to do so. And he found me in the streets of Spain while I was out there in the World League. And he's like, I want you to come play for the Raiders. And he showed me the arts of being a hardcore football player that was so, like I said, a lot of people know I didn't really make my mark as a receiver at the time because, man, I got like Hall of Fame people in front of me. So, where I made my time and made my impression was on special teams. And he would even pull me aside and coach me up on special teams and tell me how good of a job I was doing on special teams. So I was out there trying to make plays to honor him and to help his team, which my team as well, win. And so, this was a very, very special day for me, and this is a very, very special gift from the gods. Al Davis is somebody who, when they went to the Super Bowl that year after I got released, he called me just to check on me, make sure I was doing okay. He means a lot to me, and these are the type of things that stand out to me as the spirits watching over the people who they are connected to. And I wanted to share that story with you guys, especially the ones who are the hardcore Raiders and all that stuff. One day when the Raiders get things back on track and all that stuff, and they win that their fourth Lombardi trophy, I think I'm gonna find a way to get this ball on that table too, and people are gonna know that this is a gift from Al Davis. Maybe that's my mission. Maybe that's my mission with this ball, the coolest ball in the world. Maybe that's gonna be my mission, to return it to the table that it was placed on when the '68 Raiders signed it, and then maybe that's that's my mission, is to get it back there on that table right next to the Lombardi Trophy when they win their fourth one, and then it will be returned back to its owners. Oh man, wow, it all makes sense now, and it all happened on Kshed Uncuffed as I'm connecting with my listeners. And I just want to say we are going to wrap this up there because I'm about to get all emotional, and Kshed Uncuffed has a image to uphold. You can't see me like that, but anyway, thank you for your time. If you guys have any questions, kshedduncuffed@gmail.com is where I can be reached. We have a lot of great episodes en route. There's a couple people who I want to bring on the show to kind of lighten to you guys on some issues that's going on in the world that's gonna kind of blow your mind. But for now, I'm gonna tuck this beautiful ball in my in the cup of my arm, and I'm gonna visualize myself playing for the '68 Oakland Raiders, scoring a touchdown to change the outcome of the New York Jet game. The spirits are watching. Kshed out. 11. Super Bowl 11. Embodied.